Thank you, Martin, for that very kind, generous introduction. My reflection on 1967 is a very bittersweet one. Of course, I acknowledge the great progress it represented. Ending life imprisonment for consenting adult same-sex acts. Life imprisonment ended only in 1967. But the actual full criminalization of gay and bisexual men did not finally end until 2013, a mere 4 years ago. And that's because the 1967 Act was a very partial, limited decriminalization. In fact, in the years afterwards, the arrests and convictions of gay and bisexual men increased by 400% after supposed law reform. Police victimization got even worse. So it hurts me, it distresses me, when I hear so many public commentators in recent weeks talking about the ending of criminalization in 1967. The BBC, the British Library, I could go on and on and on. They repeat this nonsense, which is an insult to the thousands of gay and bisexual men who have suffered at the hands of the law right up until 4 years ago, when the last criminalization was ended. When I look back on that period of 1967, of course, removing the immediate and complete criminalization did open a space which enabled LGBT people to organize. And we should, of course, remember that that 1967 Act was not primarily the work of Leo Apsey and Lord Arran and other parliamentarians, valuable though their contribution was. It was the contribution, the end result of the work of many unsung, unknown, brave LGBT people, particularly people like Anthony Gray and Ellen Horsfall, who went to their graves unrecognized for the changes that they pioneered. That law reform would have never, ever happened without those courageous, brave gay men taking a stand and pushing MPs and lords to make those changes. So I'd like you to join me in giving a big round of applause to Anthony Gray, Ellen Horsfall, Tony Dyson, C.H. Rolfe, and the many others who were the real pioneers of 1967. As Martin has already noted, the 1967 Act only applied to England and Wales. It wasn't extended to Scotland until 1980, and not to Northern Ireland until 1982. It continued to be a serious criminal offence for members of the armed forces and the merchant navy, right up until 1994, when they could be jailed for sexual acts that were no longer crimes between civilians. There were also so many restrictions around that partial decriminalisation in 1967. The age of consent, as you know, was set at 21, when at that time, and now, the age of consent for sex between men and women is 16. And I know personally of men who were 19 or 20 who ended up in prison for consenting relationships with other men 17 and 18 years old. There were thousands and thousands and thousands who were convicted after 1967. There was also the incredibly draconian definition of privacy. Under the 1967 Act, sexual acts between men were only lawful if they took place in private. And in private meant in a person's own home, with the doors and windows locked, the curtains drawn, and no other person present in any part of the house. As recently as 1998, 7 men in Bolton, in northwest England, were prosecuted and convicted for consenting sex because other people were present in other parts of the house when they had sex, or it was a threesome. No such behaviour has ever been a criminal offence between men and women. 2 of those men got suspended prison sentences and were put on the sex offenders register alongside rapists and paedophiles in 1998. As recently as 2013, police forces across England and Wales turned up unannounced on men's doorstep to demand that they give DNA samples for a special database of serious sexual and violent offenders. This was at the orchestration of the then Home Secretary, Theresa May. She lumped together men who'd been convicted in the 50s, 60s and 70s for consensual adult acts with child sex abusers and rapists. And these men, you can imagine, some of them very elderly, unannounced, a policeman knocks at their door and says, you must come and give a DNA sample. If you don't, you'll be arrested. Imagine the shock that meant to people. Some who had moved on and were now married and living heterosexual lives, their wives knew nothing about their past. Some of these men were on the verge of suicide when they came to me, and it was only because my Peter Tatchell Foundation lobbied the Association of Chief Police Officers and got some publicity in the press that eventually the police backed off. If we hadn't challenged them, those men and many others would have had to submit to those DNA samples. So it shows you that we have made huge progress. You know, Britain is a different country compared to decades ago. But it's been a long, hard battle, and so many people have had to suffer en route to win this greater equality. Even today, of course, still things are not 100% the way we want them. You know, today, 1/3 of all LGBT people have been victims of homophobic, biphobic, or transphobic hate crimes. Half of our young kids in schools are bullied because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And even though we had a lesbian education secretary, Justine Greening, she did not make LGBT issues mandatory as part of the school curriculum, which everyone knows and everyone recommended would help challenge that prejudice and reduce that bullying. So there's many, many more things to do. All our equality laws, laudable though they are, they've all got qualified exemptions for religious organisations. So faith-run schools, hospitals and nursing homes are allowed in certain circumstances, if they can say it's necessary for the defence of their religious ethos, they are allowed to discriminate against LGBT people. That's shocking. It's shocking. I believe people of faith should have the right to hold their beliefs, but I don't believe they should be exempt from the equality laws that apply to everyone else. So when we do mark the 50th anniversary on the 27th of July, please make sure you tell people it was a partial, limited decriminalisation. Progress, a first step, but only a first step. And we need to resolve that we will continue the battle to ensure that all those residual elements of discrimination are eventually swept away, so that LGBT people in this country not only have fully equal laws, but also fully equal dignity, respect and rights. And you can all play a part in that. You can all, through your friends, neighbours and family, your work colleagues, you can all help spread the word, and I'm sure many of you have already done so, and my huge appreciation for that. We will get there in the end, but let's hope the end is sooner rather than later. Thank you.